In a world that screams for your attention, there's a place that invites you to peace. You don't need a building. You don't need a choir. You just need to turn your heart to Air One.
Air One. Songs that heal. Lyrics that pray for you when you don't have the words.
From Lauren Daigle to Elevation Worship and more.
This isn't just radio. It's worship for the everyday.
Escape the noise and worship now.
Download the Air One app. Ask your smart speaker to play Air One or visit air1.com. Air One. Worship now.
One of these men is a highly respected New York attorney, Lucas A. Ferrara. The other is a self-proclaimed man of the people, known as Mert Roberts. Their aim is to discuss the hottest issues impacting our city, state, and nation. Fasten your seatbelts. Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas, live, starts now on AM 970, The Answer.
Hey, what's the name of that one, Alex?
This is called Cruise by Ivan Velkov.
Ah, Cruise. I love it, given our next topic. Now, picture this, Mert. You've got a friend or family member aboard the Scarlet Lady. That's Virgin Voyages premium adult-only ship, which was going on a 10-day Athens to Venice Mediterranean sailing, and it was chartered by Atlantis Events. Now, imagine your friends or family, they're traveling along with 1,900 other passengers. There were about 1,100 Americans on that ship, by the way, many who have planned this voyage for months, and a celebrity. We were talking about her during the break. Broadway star Patti LuPone. She was among the passengers, and she was scheduled to perform live. But before the vessel settles into its rhythm, around July 2nd, Mert, Turkey, the country of Turkey, cancels the planned stops in its country, with the government posting on X, get ready for this, that the cruise was chartered by groups, quote, known for behaviors incompatible with the fabric of our society and our moral values, end quote. It added there was, quote, absolutely no possibility, end quote, of the group visiting. 1,200 shore excursions already sold and paid for, canceled. And around July 8th, Mert, the company quickly secured approval for a replacement stop in Alexandria, Egypt, which is the gateway to Cairo and the pyramids. The ship had visited Egypt 5 times before, including the previous year with 2,500 guests. Passengers went to bed, Mert, excited that they were going to be at the pyramids the following morning, but hours later, a note was slipped under the cabin doors. It read, quote, early this morning, we were informed that Scarlet Lady has been denied entry into Egyptian waters.
So the freak cruise.
No explanation, no warning, approval revoked. 2 countries within 6 days, the same 1,900 passengers got the same answer. We don't want you to step foot on our land. This is not a cruise story, Mert. It's about religion, geopolitics, civil rights, and a sharp irony in modern politics. But before we deep dive, did you have any thoughts about that fiasco, Mert? Of course, did I leave out that the majority of those passengers were LGBTQ plus?
Listen, a freak cruise is a freak cruise of according to what you're saying. If it's all adults and they just try to get their freak on and they try to, extend the freakiness to traditional.
Which happens all the time.
Listen, you can't advertise the freak show coming to my traditional monuments where, you'd have kids and families, and then you might have people walking around topless with paraphernalia on their shirts that of people's body parts that you might not want a child to be asking questions about. So I understand why these nations are saying get this freak cruise and let it go to America or whatever countries are let your freak flag fly, but it's not going down here. So I don't have a problem with it. Get back in that ship and find another place to dock, because you won't be docking.
Well, it's
here.
It's not that Simple. This was the company's first denial of port access in its history because of passengers' identities. Let's not use the word freak because some people will find that offensive. They're LGBTQ.
Whoa, wait a minute now. Hold on a second. The way you described it, it was an adults only. So
that's correct.
So
and they were LGBTQ plus, so their use of the word freak some may find offensive.
No. But I'm not alluding to that because I didn't know it was LGBT. You brought that in after the fact. What I was assuming was this was some kind of adult entertainment. Adult entertainment.
Plus, yes.
Like
LGBT
where they're
plus.
having like sex and everything all over the place.
Well, I didn't say that.
Well, that's what you alluded to, so you need to reword that.
No, I never alluded to that. Alex, help me out. Did I ever allude
You kind of alluded to
No, but one thing I will say, if it was that kind of cruise, the voice of Patti LuPone, they're on the wrong cruise. So.
Look,
I don't like that voice very well.
I heard this ship had been in Turkish ports 13 times in the prior 25 years, or ships like it, past 25 years without incident. So this was a sudden shift. Okay, Patti LuPone, who's the 77-year-old two-time Tony winner, performing, posted this on Instagram. The Atlantis cruise I am performing on has been banned from entering Turkey. A ship, a magnificent ship, full of gay men and me. Denied entry to Turkey simply because of who is on board. I am furious, but I am sailing. I am ready to perform for all these wonderful men on this Atlantic cruise who deserve so much more better than this. And I think she was right. Now, the CEO of the Atlantis, Rich Campbell, told CNN that this decision by the countries were pretty stunning, based on the group being gay. He noted that the ship operates like any other cruise, not a gay pride rally, not a political statement, and said he had contacted the U.S. Embassy and the ambassador in Turkey. Authorities did not budge. Egypt's denial came after full approval as well. So Campbell said to the USA Today, "We were given full approval to arrive in Egypt, and just 4 hours before we picked up the pilot and customs officers, we were told that the ship would not be allowed to enter the harbor. No explanation was given. We are very disappointed." He called it outrageous and unheard of. So the ship ended up docking in Crete. But no response came from the U.S. State Department or White House.
Well,
Isn't that a shame?
You should have cleaned it up and you said it's a LGBTQ cruise instead of an adult. See, when you say an adults-only cruise, that implies that there's a lot of, festivities going on that are just for adults.
What's the difference with adult gay cruise? It's the same.
No, not adult gay cruise, but just a freaky deaky cruise where everybody's getting their groove on. That's the way you presented it. But if it's an LGBT,
is that the way I presented it, Alex, or is this
yes,
this is the way Alex is reading into it?
When you say an adult only, that doesn't imply.
I don't know. I didn't think of it that way. The way.
No, that's Mert. It's the Mert's imagination's a little freaky. Well, your imagination's a little freaky. That's the problem, Mert.
Well, let's just make this clear. Everywhere in the world hasn't reached the level of awareness and acceptance that America has reached. So you have to be very careful with this type of stuff. Now, you can say Turkey, bad. Egypt, bad. But at the end of the day, the people of those nations have a way of doing things. And it's going to take a concerted effort by the rest of the world to work with these countries to get the acceptance that you're looking for. See, I'm not going to blame a country who has existed and done things a certain way for a long time. See, if they've always been against this, it might take them a little bit longer to accept it. Now, we have to be mature enough to understand that and not to try to shame people, because this isn't America we're talking about where you can shame people and file lawsuits. In these nations, they govern usually with a strong bent towards religion. So if they're using Islam or whatever religion they follow to severely dictate the practices of those nations, then that's what you're going to run into. Because let's be honest, if America was truly to be based upon Christian values, a lot of the LGBT stuff that we see take place wouldn't be acceptable. So in these other nations where religion dominates to a large extent, You have to understand that before you try to pass judgment, because it's a religious thing, and you have to respect how their religion operates. Just like you want us to respect the LGBTQ.
But how can you respect their statement? We don't want you on our soil. We don't want you to. They don't want you in our presence. We don't want you in our presence. That is not acceptable.
No. In America, it's not. In America,
you can have your
not.
Religious beliefs, okay?
But
what about tolerance? What about civil rights? What about non-discrimination?
Yeah. Go over there and talk civil rights to them in their nation. This is not America we're talking about. We're talking about other nations who do things a certain way. And you're not going to change their minds by trying to shame them. If you really want things to change, you have to do it with respect and dignity. You have to go over there and basically negotiate. Hey, we're not so bad. Hey, we understand this is a Muslim nation, and you guys take it very seriously. You guys infuse religion into how you guys do things over here. So can we have a conversation about acceptance? Can we, make this something that is not ostracized? And you have to approach it that way. The way you're trying to approach it, where you're trying to be tough and talk about civil liberties and they can't do that, they're going to look you right in your face and say, what army do you have that's going to tell us what we can't do in our nation? So you got to be very careful when you try to tell somebody how they going to dictate and run things in their own country. And a lot of people might not like it, but it's reality. It's how they do things. There's nothing...
Yeah, but don't you see the hypocrisy, Mert?
There is no hypocrisy.
Some of the biggest supporters of Muslim rights, defending Muslim rights, have been the LGBTQ community, LGBTQ plus community.
Well, and you got to understand.
And here are two Muslim countries basically saying, "Don't you come near us. We don't want you anywhere near us." So what about all these queers for Palestine and all these
is that a
groups?
Group or are you?
Yes,
that's a group.
That's
right?
an actual group.
Okay,
Alex,
I was just making sure.
He thinks it's a joke, Alex.
Just making sure.
It's not a joke. And
let me say this:
the reality is, all these people that defend Palestine, I hate to say that the niche, the thing that everybody says, but they are thrown off a roof if they are.
So don't you see the irony, the hypocrisy, Mert? These are the same population that advocates for the rights of the Muslim community, and then they're being told, we don't want you anywhere near us, you're dirty.
Well, that's a new phenomenon, to be honest.
It's not a new phenomenon.
No, that's a new phenomenon, because if anybody would try to have done that hundreds of years ago, they would have been dealt with in a negative way.
And by the way, Alex, have you seen any protests here in the U.S. In response to the rejection from those ports? Have you seen any press conferences, any rioting, any picketing?
Well, you're not going to see that because
I don't see any picketing, rioting in front of the Turkish embassy, in front of the Egyptian embassy, advocating, saying, "What are you doing?" There's something fundamental. There's a disconnect, Mert.
Yeah, you're the one with the disconnect, because we're not going to protest somebody who doesn't agree with the way we do things. We protest people who want our acceptance and we want to do business with, and there's intermingling. But in these other nations that they don't care if America likes them or not, why would we protest them when they don't give a damn about us?
Then why are we giving Egypt $1.3 billion in annual U.S. military aid?
I'll tell you why.
And why? And Turkey's a NATO member.
I can tell you why.
And they're not signed. And they've signed, by the way, international conventions on non-discrimination.
I can tell you why.
And they're not enforcing those basic promises.
I can
They're
tell you
basically saying, you dirty people, stay away. But we'll take your money and we'll take your support, but other than that, we hate you.
I can tell you why, because there's probably homosexuals in the military and in the government who are saying, listen, don't be dumb here. We need to have strategic relationships with these nations. So we need to have eyes and ears in these places, and you're just going to have to understand that they're not America. So let's not
So then we should not support them.
No. See, you don't want to cut off your nose to spite your face. Listen,
how are you cutting?
You have to do business.
About?
You have to do business with people who you don't agree with. If you choose to be arrogant enough to think, hey, if they don't do everything the way America likes, we can just cut them off, then you're setting America up for a big letdown.
What about the subgroup?
When it comes to the world?
What about the subgroup? What about the LGBTQ plus? Why are they not in uproar? Why are they not withholding support?
Because they're not trying to go to these areas. And
they just got rejected from them.
No.
Talking about?
A cruise got rejected, but you don't see thousands and thousands of Americans saying, man, I wish I could just go to Turkey.
People
I wish
go
I
to
could
Istanbul all the time. In fact, it was
right, and they don't have to announce that they're gay. Listen, you don't have to announce.
They used to have pride events in Istanbul.
Listen,
until
you don't have to announce your sexuality, and you can go. You don't have to put your sexuality on your passport. So you're making a false claim. What you're talking about is a organization that was promoting a LGBTQ event.
By the way, and Israel happens to be most tolerant when it comes to LGBTQ.
I don't know why you just said that. Okay. Listen to what I'm saying right now. I'm saying,
but the support for Israel is faltering. These LGBT groups are not supporting Israel. They're supporting people that want to destroy them.
I don't know why you're ignoring.
I know exactly what Lucas is trying to say here.
What am I saying, Alice? Because Mert's not getting it.
You're saying, why are these same groups that basically are, protesting when Trump did the Muslim ban and all that.
Right.
Now, when their community is banned, they're not going out and protesting.
They're
That's
banned.
the point.
They're not banned because you can go to these areas. Just don't tell anybody what you
don't
do.
Ask, don't tell, huh?
Well, hold on a second. Listen to me before you cut me off with a little slick comment. You can go anywhere in these nations. Just don't tell people what you're into. Nobody's stopping you. But if you want to go there and promote, hey, I'm gay, and run around the streets chanting it and all that type of stuff, it is not America, and they don't operate that way. So don't try to make it seem like you can't be homosexual and go to these areas. They just don't want you throwing big-time parties and blasting it because they don't want that to be part of how they do things. So the assertions that you are making are not truthful and accurate.
And actually, I'm glad you said that, because some of these groups also say they don't like America. Meanwhile, hey, they're more accepting here than they are in other countries.
Right. Egypt and Turkey doesn't like you, so there, have it. It's a big, I don't know. I see it as incongruity.
So why aren't we protesting them if they don't like? You see how you run into a conflict here? Why are we not protesting them? If they don't like America.
We should.
No,
in fact, we should withhold the support. Look, here in the United States, in my view, guys, the silence has been deafening. Where are the press conferences, the protests, the viral outrage, the hashtags that usually flood our timelines at the first hint of injustice? Those same voices that erupt over the slightest domestic mistake have been strangely silent when those values are spat upon abroad. Selective outrage, Mert, is not compassion. It is inconvenience. It reveals a group more comfortable condemning its own country than confronting uncomfortable arrows.
They have right to say we don't like that type of party, but if you just go as a private individual, they don't have any reason to get into your business, what you do in your bedroom.
Civil rights, Mert, cannot be a one-way street. You don't get to demand protection while the governments abroad that you defend treat your brothers and sisters like garbage. The passengers sailed on. They danced. They refused to let bigotry steal their joy. But, Mert, joy is not justice. 1,900 Americans, paying customers, passport holders, human beings, I might add, were told that their presence defiles two Muslim nations, and much of America looked away. How sad. How sad. Because if we will not defend our own citizens when foreign governments reject them for who they are, then what exactly are we defending, Mert? The right to dance in international waters while the ports that should have welcomed them were closed? Well, the music is still playing, Mert, but the silence between the notes is growing louder, all while the world is watching and waiting. And I promise you this, my friends, we'll never be silenced, at least not voluntarily, because you're listening to episode 106 of Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas Live. This is Lucas Ferrara, and with me in the studio is none other than my co-host, Mert Roberts, affectionately known as the Mertinator, Alex Garrett. He's hosting a 5-star rated podcast, One Leg Up with Alex Garrett. He's working the board. Please check out his podcast. podcast. And Hermine Santos is back in control, master control. When we come back, Alicia Scovill will join us. She's a retired Air Force Staff Sergeant. She's a principal of Scovill Construction, and she's a leading veteran advocate, so you don't want to miss her. I, along with Bert, Alex, all of us at AM 970, will return after these messages. Scovill joins us after the break, and if you ever wondered why so many veterans struggle to find their footing, and how companies can actually do better, she's about to give it to you straight from both the flight line and the job site.
Over the last 30 years, Newman Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 55 East 59th Street, New York City. Go online to newmanferrara.com. That's newmanferrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate, on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate.
Our founders believed that freedom wasn't just a word, it was a way of life. Larry Elder here. The freedom to move forward, the freedom to pursue what matters most, the freedom to live fully. But pain has a way of taking those freedoms away. That's why Relief Factor exists. I've been taking Relief Factor for a number of years, and I do not miss a day without taking it. Relief Factor is a 100% drug-free, research-based supplement designed to help support a healthy inflammatory response, addressing pain at its source, not just covering it up. Over 1 million Americans have tried Relief Factor, and about 2/3 go on to order more. So this year, as we celebrate 250 years of freedom, ask yourself a simple question. Are you living with the freedom you deserve? Relief Factor gives you the opportunity to live pain-free and get back to the life you love. To commemorate our country's birth, we're offering a special patriotic price, just $17.76, so you can celebrate your freedom from pain. Your $17.76 3-week quick start is ready for you. Visit ReliefFactor.com, that's ReliefFactor.com, or call 800-4-RELIEF, 800-4-RELIEF.
Foundations of Freedom, a look at America's founding principles and the leaders who shaped our nation.
Most Americans think of Abraham Lincoln and they think of the Civil War or the Emancipation. But in 1862, he signed another hugely significant piece of legislation, the Homestead Act. It offered eligible Americans up to 160 acres of land, not as a prize for the powerful, but as an opportunity for ordinary families willing to live on it, work it, and build something lasting. Why did it matter? Because Lincoln understood that freedom was not merely the absence of tyranny. Rather, freedom required responsibility, labor, stewardship, and moral courage. A free people must be given room to build, but they also must be willing to cultivate what they have been given. That still matters today. Liberty without responsibility decays. Opportunity without character collapses. Lincoln's lesson is clear. A nation stays free when its people remain willing to work, build, and steward freedom under God.
Welcome back to Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas, live on AM 970, The Answer.
What is the name of that one, Alex?
This is called Indivisible, and it's by Rocrode or something like that.
Yeah, Rocket or something like that is right. Interesting, because our next guest is about to shine a light on a group we rarely see. Not because they aren't there, but because we've allowed them to become invisible. Invisible veterans. Alicia Scovill is a retired U.S. Air Force Staff Sergeant and the principal of Scovill Construction. As a dedicated and passionate veteran advocate, she has made it her mission to support fellow service members, especially the often overlooked invisible veterans as they transition into meaningful civilian careers. Drawing from our own experience in the high discipline, high accountability environment of the Air Force, and now leading a construction company, Alicia brings a unique and practical perspective to the challenges veterans face in the civilian workforce. She works tirelessly to educate employers, advocates for real structural changes, and creates pathways for veterans to not only get hired, but to lead and thrive in industries like construction. Her advocacy focuses on recognizing the transferable skills veterans bring: discipline, teamwork, problem solving, and leadership, while addressing the real gaps that exist between good intentions and actual results. Welcome to the program, Alicia.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Now, Lisa, tell us about your service in the Air Force and what led you to become an advocate and lead to your work at Scovill Construction. Give us a little overview.
Sure, yeah. I was in the Air Force for about 6 years. I was a meteorologist, and I was actually assigned to the Army the entire time I served, which was a little bit of a unique situation. But it was great for me. It meant I got to tell pilots whether or not they could go do what they wanted to do each day. Great opportunity to learn your voice. So following my service, I went to school, got my construction engineering management degree, and then off I went to the construction industry.
Now, Alicia, why would you do that? You're a meteorologist. You didn't want to go do TV meteorology. Why would you go be a construction worker? That's something that's not usual.
So many people have asked me that. It's a great question. I actually did work in meteorology as soon as, right after I got out. I worked on one of the air bases down in Southern Oregon. But I just wanted something different. I wanted something that was a little more teamwork oriented, I would say. That was a big driver.
So you actually get your hands on these tools and build and stuff, or are you more of the brains behind it?
Well, I used to have my hands on the tools plenty. I started out my education, learning carpentry. So I got an associate's degree in that first, and then I led my way up to the construction engineering, construction management focus.
You know what? That's fascinating, because you know what I would think as an advocate for soldiers, some of these apprenticeship type jobs, not the college route, but some of these hands-on type of jobs, it sounds like those are good jobs for people, not just in the military, or coming out of the military, but just in general. But so it sounds like that's a good direction, and you would be the perfect person to talk to, because this is a direction that I think more people should go in. Carpentry, plumbing, construction. Is that something that you advocate for when you're dealing with?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I do believe that veterans fit in the construction industry quite nicely. And it fills some voids for veterans as well. You get that access to being part of a team again. You've got clear missions that need to be executed each day. There's many good reasons for veterans to be in construction. But also, something I speak to is the fact that we're really combining two vulnerable populations to mental and emotional health and suicide risk. Both of those populations are high risk. So I certainly say, yes, veterans should be in construction, but I also say let's do it with a little more awareness and with our eyes wide open and paying special attention to some things.
Now, that's very important what you just said, awareness. What are we supposed to be aware of? Because that's, that could a very vague statement. No disrespect meant, but I'm just like, what should we be paying attention to? Because there's a lot of things to look at, and we could be missing some of these things that maybe you can point out for us.
Absolutely. foundationally, I would say many Americans are missing the opportunity to understand who veterans really are.
Right.
And, you know, even me sitting here working to proliferate this message, I'm obviously not speaking for all veterans, but I am speaking for quite a majority of them, and I'm speaking from my own experience.
Of course.
But something that I've been inspiring folks to think about is, you know, if someone didn't serve in the military or have close friends or family who served, then really the only tool they have to understand who veterans are is what they've absorbed from the environment around them.
Right.
So what they've been socially conditioned to believe. And unfortunately, you know, since let's use Hollywood as an example, the movies, right?
Right.
Really, the only veterans you see, the only service members you see are either heroes, you know, they're the pilots, the snipers, whomever, or they're the broken veterans.
Right.
So obviously that's a very narrow viewpoint that leaves out a huge population of veterans, especially veterans today. And in that, there's quite a few results. You know, it imposes.
Wait a minute. So are you saying that, like you were a meteorologist? So are you trying to say that even veterans who serve in positions such as yours, when they have to make that transition, they suffer as well? It's not just the one who was on the battlefield who goes through stuff. It's we all have there is a lot of other people who go through things. Is that what you're trying to say?
Absolutely. And I appreciate this question so much because something that I think is misunderstood is that there's actually a larger population of our veterans who take their lives by suicide who never deployed. And that's been the case for several years. So this isn't truly a PTSD problem. This isn't a combat trauma problem.
Right.
This is a post-service problem.
How do you suggest we address this, Alicia?
Well, foundationally, when you meet a veteran, take time to get to know them as individuals. I mean, that's something all of us can do at the human level, right? Understand that maybe just because they were a pilot, they may have imposter syndrome. It's quite possible that somebody joined to be a pilot, but they were, a supply sergeant instead. So maybe they're living with some unfulfilled mission ideas. Or maybe there's folks like me who, I went to 2 different combat zones. I got out, I felt great until several years later when I was trying to make my way in corporate America in the construction industry. And that's really, that experience is what has allowed me to have some really great food for thought in what these experiences are as many of our veterans, and then translate it into where do we go from here. And really within corporate America, we've got a tremendous opportunity to make a big difference. When I say corporate America, I mean really any enterprise that isn't government. I know that's a broad generalization.
No, we understand.
Conversation.
Yeah, we get it.
Yeah.
We get it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, truly, once again, corporations, organizations get to know your veterans as individuals. There's going to be some veterans who do not crave structure, who don't do well with structure. Maybe that's why they're no longer serving in the military. But many veterans thrive on structure, accountability, and simply understanding what the mission is, matching their responsibilities to their capabilities. And what I found is that I think many folks in corporate America believe that they are putting that structure in their organization, but it doesn't translate directly to the way a veteran may understand it. So I really am working to provide common language and understanding around what some of those elements may be, so that we start talking the same language.
We have to take a quick commercial break, but have no fear. Alicia Scovill will be rejoining us after these messages. For more info on Alicia and her work, visit Scovill, SCOVILL, That's ScovillCCS.com. We'll post that link on our website, ShakeItOffLive.com. Now you better stay right where you are. Alicia Scovill is back after the break with more straight talk on what veterans really need from employers and how the construction industry and every other industry can step up.
Last 30 years, Newman Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 55 East 59th Street, New York City. Go online to newmanferrara.com. That's newmanferrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate, on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate.
And now it's time for the Cat's Corner.
This is John Catsimatidis. Every day, Americans are bombarded with fake news. People that are telling us they hate America. Paid political demonstrators that, guess what? ABC, CBS, and NBC gives them $1 zillion in advertising and puts it right on their network. I've complained to people that we are giving the wrong people the wrong message because those people only represent the Democratic Socialist Party. America, our country, has been built by people who want to work hard. The immigrants came over and wanted to educate their kids, worked 80 hours a week, educating their kids to become bankers, lawyers, investment bankers, accountants. Let's focus on common sense instead of division. We don't have to agree on everything, but we do have to respect each other and be able to sit down at the same table and work out our differences. That is today's Cat's Corner. I'm John Catsimatidis.
Join John Catsimatidis on Cats and Cosby weeknights at 5 and the Cats Roundtable Sunday mornings 8 to 10 on AM 970 The Answer.
Maybe you've thought about taking a cruise. Maybe you've even talked yourself out of it. But this is not just another vacation. This is the Gulf of America cruise. 7 days through the Caribbean with Mike Gallagher, Scott Jennings, Larry O'Connor, Jennifer Horn, and a ship full of people who love this country. No packing and unpacking, no complicated planning, just great destinations, meaningful conversations, and a once-in-a-generation celebration of America's 250th. This November, be there. Text CRUISE to 94878 to book your cabin today.
Everything old is new again on Nostalgia Tonight with Joe Sibilia. Join Joe as he celebrates the people, places, and phenomena that shaped popular culture. Sunday nights at 10 on AM 970, The Answer.
AM 970,
The Answer.
Welcome back to Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas, live on AM 970, The Answer.
We're joined again by Alicia Scovill, retired Air Force Staff Sergeant and Principal of Scovill Construction, and a powerful voice for veterans in the workforce. She's back with us now to push the conversation forward. For more information about Alicia and her work, visit ScovillCCS.com. That's COVILLCCS.com. We'll post that link on our website, ShakeItOffLive.com. Now let's continue the discussion. Now, before I turn you over to Mert, Alicia, you have used the word invisible veteran. What is it exactly does that term mean? Are those the people that you were talking about earlier, or are we talking about somebody else?
Absolutely. So that's the invisible veterans are the folks who are neither heroes or broken.
Ah, okay.
Heroes in the eyes of, the Hollywood lens is what I call it.
Right.
And these are the people that we're not addressing and handling appropriately. Is that what you're saying?
Sure, right. Or even I've witnessed this happen when someone is talking with a veteran and they come to understand, what their job was in the service. Say it was something mail clerk, then they kind of lose interest and they're like, I thought you served.
Right. That's
and
true.
Right. Of course, no ill intent is meant there, but it should be understood. There's a lot of different roles in the military, and every single one of them is essential, and none of them are, I only did this or I only did that.
Now, Alicia, let me ask you this, because when our young people go into the military, I've never been in the military, but is there any attention paid to the mentality that people are coming into the military with? Because I assume that the military does a good job because it can lay down the law and keep people in line because of the aggressive nature of how they can conduct their business. But once some of these people are removed from that structure, if their underlying mentalities were never addressed, is it possible that once that structure is removed, this is where the issue is taking place, and therefore there has to be some kind of program in place while active, or when you're getting people on board with the military, that can actually do some recon, so to speak, of dealing with the mental issues they might have coming into the military? Have that ever been talked about and considered?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, actually, I was screened in basic training. I lost my mother when I was very young, so of course that's going to create some challenge in life, right?
Right.
And so that was back in the late 90s. They screen folks coming in. They've been doing that for several years. Of course, it's reasonable to believe or understand that the loss of structure when you get out is a huge contributing factor. Absolutely.
And the reason I asked that is because that term you used, what was it, the invisible soldier? How did you put it? Is that what it was?
The invisible veteran.
The invisible veteran.
The invisible veteran. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm trying to think that maybe there's invisible factors that people deal with that might not sound off any alarm bells, and maybe you can speak to that. Like, what are some of the things that even the military doesn't consider in that process where they say, you know what, you've been abused and all this stuff, you've been in jail 50 times, so you can't come. But maybe there's other things that we should probably consider. Is there anything to what I'm asking right now? Because I'm trying to, get the people to understand just how an invisible veteran, what that person could be made up of before they actually enter into the military.
Sure. I like this question. I haven't had this question before. I would say, for one, who would get to decide what level of trauma was acceptable?
That's a good question. Yep, that's a good question.
For someone to come into the service with. But also, I would counter the idea with somebody could come into the service with zero trauma,
right,
and leave with quite a bit, regardless of whether or not they ever deployed.
That's
so
true.
It really, that has such a wide path it could take. I agree. If someone is struggling tremendously,
right,
then military may not be the best route for them. But again, who gets to make the decisions and who gets to measure somebody's trauma? That's a tough one.
That's a good point. So when we start addressing the issues that some of these veterans are having, what are we talking about exactly, and some of the things that you might be doing or that you are doing to help with these issues?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would say let's frame it in the ways of the things I'm trying to help corporate America do.
Right.
And one of the foundational things that I believe we need to get better at is providing sense of belonging.
Right.
In the service, I don't know if this is unique to the units that I was in or not. Actually, I know it wasn't unique. But something that happened for us was when we got to a new unit, our supervisor would take us out to dinner with their family. So it wasn't just work. This entire military culture, you are living with your fellow soldiers, you're spending your off time with them, you're moving residences with them. You're doing so much more.
Building camaraderie. Yeah, that word. Yeah, building.
Yeah. Absolutely. The sense of camaraderie is much more intense. So obviously that's not quite practical for corporate America, but I think there's ways to do better.
I have a question here, Alex Garrett. The imposter syndrome you talk about, do you find that many just leave the service feeling like they don't know who they are? Is that part of the reason why you've started the Invisible they just don't know? And has that number increased over the years?
That's a good question.
Yes, absolutely. There's so many of us that leave the service feeling like, well, just think about folks whose job is not useful on the outside, like forward air controllers,
right?
Bomb loaders,
right? That's true.
Folks, right? So of course they leave with I'm not going to speak for them. Of course, it's quite possible they leave with an idea of, who am I now? What am I supposed to do? There's a lot of organizations that are working hard with veterans to help translate their skills into something useful in the civilian world. That was also something I wanted to speak to earlier. I can't remember who was asking me about that. But there really isn't a shortage of programs to help veterans. The problem is oftentimes there's a lot of bureaucracy to get to that support, and then sometimes the help just isn't supportive in the way that it's meant to be helpful.
So it's not targeted to somebody who might be regular. You just had a job that doesn't really apply to anything out in the world, so it's kind of hard to help you because you don't have any mental health issues. You're not PTSD. You just was a bomb loader, and we don't have any civilian bomb loading jobs. So I can see what you're talking about. That is a difficult problem to try to fix.
Absolutely. Yeah, you nailed it there.
So is it a problem with reintegration? Do we require mental health services? Is there a quick answer? Because we only have about a minute left, believe it or not, Alicia. Is there a quick answer or a solution?
I do know that the VA is working hard to get better at their mental health services, but let's not stop there. There's also many other resources. So if anyone is out there struggling, please look beyond the VA. Please look beyond anything that is labeled, just for veterans, because truly getting to a point where you are proud of who you are and you have your self-worth well established is the number one thing. Moving on from there is really your best hope and standpoint.
Amen. Unfortunately, Alicia, we've run out of time. For more information on Alicia Scovill and her work, visit her website, scovillccs.com. That's SCOVILLCCS.com. And we'll post that link on our website, shakeitofflive.com. Thanks for coming on the program, Alicia. We hope you had fun.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for the great questions.
Well, my friends, that concludes show number 106. That's over 2 full years of live programming. Special thanks to the Mertonator, Mert Roberts, my co-host, for 106 amazing episodes. That's 212 hours of live entertainment. And if you think that's easy, you try it. And to Alex Garrett, thank you, Alex. Couldn't have done it without you. Check out his 5-star rated podcast, One Leg Up with Alex Garrett. And to everyone behind the scenes at AM 970, Laura Schaefer, Matthew Sample, and Joe Sevilla, Frank Volpe, Ryan Pagano, Cara Fasaro, and of course, Hermine Santos. We love you. Thank you. Before we go, check out my movie, streaming everywhere, my latest hit, Manor of Darkness. It's an eerie time loop horror, now on Amazon, Google Play, YouTube, and in January, the New York Times selected it as one of the top 5 movies you should stream, Manor of Darkness. Check it out. If you're listening to us live, next up is my favorite AM 970 show. Then if you're foodie, stay tuned for Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates coming up at 9 p.m. Eastern. Join us, same time, same place, for more of Shake It Off Live.
The preceding program is sponsored by Shake It Off Live, LLC.
In a world that screams for your attention, there is a place that invites you to peace. You don't need a building. You don't need a choir. You just need to turn your heart to Air One.
Air One, songs that heal, lyrics that pray for you when you don't have the words.
From Lauren Daigle to Elevation Worship and more.
This isn't just radio. It's worship for the everyday.
Escape the noise and worship now.
Download the Air One app. Ask your smart speaker to play Air One or visit air1.com. Air One, worship now.